And thank you very much for joining us again for the second event dedicated to voluntary sustainability reporting standards for SMEs. This webinar today is organized by the WorldBank Center for Financial and Sustainability Reporting Reform in cooperation with EFRAG. And the event is part of a CFRR initiative to raise awareness and promote sustainability reporting. This initiative is under our regional program, Enhancing Accounting, Auditing, and Sustainability Reporting. The program is co-financed by the Federal Ministry of Finance of Austria, Swiss State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, and the Austrian Development Agency. We are thankful to our donors for their continuous support overall and in particular with regard to this important initiative. Please be informed that simultaneous interpretation is available today into Albanian, Russian, and Bosnian, Croatian, Serbian. If you want to hear your language more clearly, please select mute original audio. Also, the event today is being recorded in all languages, and the recordings will be available on our website shortly. You will receive a link once available, and if, for instance, you are not able to attend the previous event, you'll have the possibility to learn from the available recordings. Also today, you'll have the possibility to ask questions. We encourage you to use the Q&A box for your questions. Of course, we'll do our best to monitor the chat as well. But if you want to be sure that your question is answered, still we encourage you to use the Q&A box for your questions. A previous session was focused on the key principles with a deep dive into two standards model, basic and comprehensive. And I would like just to highlight again that the VSME Standard is a voluntary reporting framework developed by EFRAG. And in July, European Commission issued a recommendation on the VSME Standard. The recommendation is addressed to three key groups. First of all, it is addressed to SMEs. And the Commission recommends that SMEs that wish to voluntarily report sustainability information to do so in accordance with the standard. And this is applicable also to SMEs based in non-EU member states. And also we discussed last time that if regulators in non-EU countries, for instance, in EU accession countries, wants to adopt the standard as a mandatory framework for certain category of entities in their jurisdictions, there are not any limitation or there is no need to enter into a copyright agreement. Of course, you will need to translate the standard and make it available into a local language if the intention is to adopt standard as a mandatory framework for certain category of entities in your country. Also, the European Commission recommendation is addressed to the largest companies under the scope of mandatory sustainability reporting requirements. These companies are encouraged to limit as far as possible their request to SMEs, part of supply chain, when they need to collect information on sustainability to report. So to limit their request to what is recommended by the VSME standard. Finally, the recommendation is addressed to EU member states. And the Commission recommends member states raise awareness among SMEs, benefits of voluntary reporting on sustainability information based on a clear framework. And VSME Standard can serve as such a framework. Also, member states are encouraged to take appropriate measures at the national level, so to ensure that SMEs are not required to report as part of supply chain or value chain more than is recommended by the standard. And finally, member states are encouraged to take appropriate measure and support digitalization of SME reporting on sustainability information. And today we'll learn more about available resources from EFRAG to support the implementation of the VSME standard. And it's my pleasure to reintroduce again EFRAG colleagues, Elisa Bevilacqua, EFRAG Senior Technical Manager, and Elisa is leading the work on the VSME standard within EFRAG. And Lorenzo Baldini and Mattias Mingazzini, EFRAG Junior Technical Managers. So dear EFRAG colleagues, over to you now.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear as well. We are going to walk you through our slide presentation to make it easier follow. And once again, we want to remind you that the work we are carrying out also in the framework of the VSME ecosystem is reflecting the original scope that we have had from the start of our mandate, which is for companies which are micro, small and medium, meaning between, let's say, 1 person to 250, up to 250 employees. And this is also the population that the European recommendation that Svetlana mentioned, which is also endorsing our VSME standard, is targeting. So let us now go into the details of the VSME ecosystem. And importantly, why did we set up the VSME ecosystem? So during the public consultation and the field test, we've heard some key messages that we then picked up. One of the critical messages was the fact that when an entrepreneur of SME applies the standard on a voluntary basis, there needs to be clearly incentives to do so. So the entrepreneur must have at his or her disposal tools and incentives to help him or her in the reporting. For most entities, the requirements needed this support, which is not only in terms of tools, but also in terms of education and capacity building. The biggest challenges that were perceived were around GHG calculation and online reporting solutions, digital VSME, and also some additional support guides for disclosure, in particular for the comprehensive model. So on that basis, we have decided to set up a VSME ecosystem that would allow these incentives and this support function to foster the uptake of the VSME standard. So the forum, and we can move now on the next slide for a visualization of it. The VSME ecosystem is composed on 5 deliverables. First of all, we have set up already in February this year a forum which is composed of representatives, in particular institutional representatives from preparers, or SMEs, but also from their business counterparts. So banks, financial institutions, or large undertakings, which are usually heads of supply chains, but also platform accountants and as observer, national standard setters. We are linking the work of the forum with the one of the VSME community that also accompanied the designing of the VSME standard in the past 2 years. So those bodies are important in the ecosystem, in particular because they allow the dialogue to continue, the dialogue between the parties. Let's not forget that the VSME standard was a result of a balanced negotiation between the SMEs preparers and the users, and this balancing act that we have achieved is importantly built on dialogue, and that this forum allow us to continue and keep on the dialogue in the implementation phase. Second deliverable is the mapping and scanning through the market to map SMEs reporting related initiatives, tools, but also platforms and other type of initiatives. Then we have the third deliverable, which is the outreaches and events, the training session. This is part of the education and capacity building, and above all, the promotion of the standard. We have also launched, and we'll tell you more on that, a survey on the VSME acceptance progress. And finally, on the support guides, we are working since more or less 1 year, okay, since January, the start of this year, on additional support for 3 disclosure in particular in the comprehensive module that were perceived more difficult from SMEs, and also on the digital template that it really is a crucial element for encouraging, supporting, incentivizing SMEs reporting via VSME. And Matthias will tell you more about that later. So let me briefly go through the different deliverables to walk you through and understanding better each and every part of this VSME ecosystem. The SME forum and community are a little bit different in scope, in the sense that the SME forum is mainly institutional, so European or national representative of SMEs, the banks or large corporates and accountants or rating agency. We have a total of 47 members. And the role is really to raise awareness, promote the standard, facilitate exchanges, and also give us the technical input in our work on the educational material or the support guides. Then for the community, we have a bit of a different perspective, because here we have individual companies, if you want, the individual SME or banks, or even the category consultants, but also some non-EU member states representative or government institution. In the community, we have more than 500 members, and they really contribute on a technical level, advising us together with the forum on the content of the support material, and in particular of the support guides. They also have a role, of course, of promoting and help us raising awareness on the standard. Then let's come to the mapping of VSME or SME reporting related initiatives. We have 2 mappings and 2 reports that have been released a couple of weeks ago at the end of September. The first is the mapping of the GHG calculators. We started with the aim of mapping digital tools that could help with some of the disclosures reporting contained in the SME. So we were looking at tools that included GHG calculators, geolocation, water stress, or biodiversity sensitive areas. But through our mapping, we have basically come to the conclusion that most of the tools are actually focusing on GHG calculators. So there were very little on the other areas that we were trying to cover. We have identified through a call for interest 100 tools, and out of those, 12 were shortlisted according to number of criteria that were upfront already indicated in the survey. And we have also surveyed the participants around 9 topics. So, of course, the identification of the tool, but also the managing organization, whether it's a public or private entity, the geographical focus, if there is a sectoral focus, the methodological framework, the cost model, of course. We were trying to map especially the freely available tools, whether there was an official recognition from the government, public authority, and the language availability, which is another important dimension. So the 12 shortlisted tools are now published on our website. Of course, the fact that we have shortlisted them does not mean that we recognize them, or there is no, in a way, EFRAG certification stamp on them, but it's just, let's say, based on the criteria that we had identified, we wanted to provide the market with some freely available references that would help the reporting, and this is why we have referenced those calculators on our website. You can see them in this slide, and you can find them, of course, when you go online. Some have obviously national focus. Some have also a multi-country orientation, and also multi-language. So depending on the nature of the business, the SME can choose. Of course, we can see, and maybe we can see that in the next slide as a key takeaway, the fact that there is a limited number of tools, and also availability in terms of languages and in terms of countries. We think that this mapping offers an initial insight into the current landscape of the digital solution available. It is obviously not an exhaustive exercise, and we would have to probably continue this work in the future. And also, the question is whether a technical quality check should also be carried out. The other key takeaway is what I already mentioned earlier. So the fact that actually there is a lack of tools addressing beyond the GHG calculation, the geolocation, the water stress, and biodiversity sensitive areas reporting. In terms of possible future scenarios, we consider that it would be important to encourage member states to develop and promote the tools that address those other aspects, geolocation, water stress, biodiversity, as those are important elements and are increasingly being requested by financial institutions. They're also included in our VSME standard. EFRAG also encourages cross-fertilization and possible development of GHG calculators applicable at the European Union level and free of charge. This was also part of the discussion at our recent event on the 6th of October. So there is certainly work in progress here. The second report and the second mapping exercise that we have undertaken was the mapping of platforms and initiatives. This report was also and is available on our website. It was published at the end of September. For this report, we have also issued a call for interest. We have received the reply from more than 220 platforms. We have assessed them through a survey that consisted in 10 topics. So, of course, the identification of the platform, but also the type and nature of the initiative, the alignment with the VSME standard, that is obviously an important component, the status of development, whether they were in a design phase or operational, cost model, once again, free of charge or with some ad hoc or recurring fee, whether there would be guidelines available, whether there would be generation of reporting automated, or and whether there would be the data access of third party to the data reported through the platform. We also mapped the country of the initiative and the language availability. So through this mapping, we have shortlisted 20 initiatives and platforms. Those 20 were the ones that actually completed a self-assessment. So there was a first screening through dimensional criteria and also, let's say, governmental led initiatives that were included in the shortlist. But then after that, we also asked those shortlisted to compile a self-assessment to understand what was the level of alignment with our VSME standard. And so only 20 completed this part, and the results are published on our website. Once again, it is very important to say that this is just a snapshot. So we are just providing a picture at this moment in time. This is not an exhaustive exercise. It is an ongoing effort. And then we also would want to say that the 20 self-assessed platform in general are partly governmental-led, so only 5 actually out of those 20 were government-led, from the Danish, German and French authorities, and also from the Italian. And those were actually, and out of those 5, only 3 of them were fully aligned, or at least self-declaring full alignment. For the categories of the national and European associations-led platforms, we also have a very partial level of a self-declared alignment with VSME. The only fully aligned were the platform developed by Lombarda in Italy, the one developed by the Austrian Control Bank in Austria, and the one developed by Fenavian and Food Drink Europe in Belgium/Europe. So this is just to say that for those type of initiatives, and I would extend this also to the ones that are privately led by consortia, for example, of banks and heads of supply chain or even rating agencies. So those, let's say, private initiatives also show very limited alignment towards our VSME standard. And the same goes for the private entities initiatives. So the bottom line here is that for us, this element is very important. And so the element of alignment, so while we are providing a number of platforms where SMEs can go and put their data. Of course, some are only for the members of that specific association, some other are freely available to any SMEs, but independently on that, there is still the problem of the alignment, and therefore the importance of maybe establishing a certification system that could be based maybe on the EFRAG VSME template, the digital template. It's something that it's just now coming as a part of the possible way forward after this report, not yet established, but it's one of the conclusion and discussion points stemming from the report. The other important element is the fact that, of course, this is just a picture and there is no endorsement, no verification done by EFRAG on the self-assessment received. So probably we would need, as I said, a further technical check on those results. I mentioned already as part of the future scenario, the verification mechanism, but also what we would expect is really that the market continues to develop. And we think that the number of freely accessible initiatives and platforms will increase, in particularly now that the recommendation VSME is adopted by the European Commission and it's on the table. And this would facilitate further the uptake of the VSME, integrating the VSME to the existing and upcoming platforms. Oh, this is an overview of our work on mapping. And then for the outreaches, I will hand it over to Lorenzo, who will tell you more about this aspect.
Yes, thank you, Elisa. Yes, I'll be discussing now the outreach events and training sessions, as well as then the VSME market acceptance survey, and just an overview of what we're doing in terms of supporting guides. So in terms of outreach events and training sessions, these are two distinct things. In terms of training sessions, by that we mean educational videos, essentially. We have done two series of videos, one focusing on the overall standard, it's the principles, and also so both the disclosures, but also the overall setting for the standard, and that you can find online. I'll also link to the slides, and essentially it covers the content that we have looked at in the previous session. And then a second series on the environmental, social, and governance disclosures, focusing specifically at the disclosure along with the guidance. So trying to break down the various different data points. In terms of outreach events, we've had a series of outreach events like this one, but then we've also had larger events like the ones put on this slide here, always trying to tackle and bringing out to the public the content of the VSME, why it was made, often in partnership with the European Commission, and to give an update on the progress of our own work. I see that someone is saying that the slides are not being shared. I see them. Svetlana, can you confirm that you see them? I think.
Yes, we can see slides.
Okay, because there was a comment saying your slides are not being shared, I think. But okay, if you see them, it's fine. So that's on the outreach events. There will be more coming in the future, but this is the ones that we have done in the past. Then with regards to the VSME acceptance progress survey that Elisa mentioned before, we have launched a survey on the 2nd of October, which will last until the 10th of November, on to understand, track, and measure, and get any feedback on how the VSME is being used, how it's being accepted by the market, by all stakeholders, so SMEs, financial institutions, supply chain counterparts, public authorities, etc. So you're all invited to participate in this survey. It gives you, as I said, an opportunity to give us some feedback on what you think about it, on what you think about the VSME and how you're able to use it, or how long it's taking you to use it, or if you have any other recommendation. So please do take a look at the survey before the 10th of November. And then in terms of supporting guides, here, as Elisa was mentioning, we've been working on this for just under a year. We started in January, then we did a series of consultations with the VSME Forum, the VSME community, but also SRB and SRTEG, so our internal bodies, approval bodies at EFRAG. And we have been developing 3 supporting guides. The first one on description of practices, policies, and future initiatives. So here the idea is really to provide a list of examples that can serve to the SMEs to understand what potential initiatives they might already have in place, because we expect a lot of SMEs to already have a series of different actions, practices, and policies, and so on in place. So the idea is really to give them an understanding of what we mean by that, because to set a level of expectation. And with this, we're also developing a set of case studies, 5 in total for different sectors, which again will serve to show how the SME might actually provide that description of their practices, policies, and future initiatives. So this is very much a supporting guide. This one on C2, on disclosure C2, to help SMEs understand not what we expect, but what they could be reporting that is specific to their own business model. Of course, we expect the SMEs to develop something that is specific to their own business model and operations. And secondly, we're developing a supporting guide on GHG reduction targets and climate transition. This is a supporting guide that guides SMEs with a step-by-step guidance on how to set GHG reduction targets and how to develop a climate transition plan. The climate transition plan being linked to the reduction targets. So the climate transition plan follows on the GHG reduction targets, and both focus only on scope 1 and scope 2, like the VSME does as well. And then the supporting guide on disclosure C7 on severe negative human rights incidents. This has a value chain focus. This disclosure does not only have a value chain focus, but the guide will have a value chain focus, meaning that we will provide examples of what severe negative human rights incidents in the value chain for workers in the value chain, affected communities, and consumers and end users might look like for different type of sectors again. So there's one example per type of value chain section. So workers in the value chain, affected communities, and consumers and end users. So this encapsulates more or less the current work that we are doing on these guides. Right now, we are consulting with the SRB and SRTEG, and we hope to publish them in November/December for public use on EFRAG's website. They will be published in English. And now I leave it to Matthias to just talk about the digital templates and XBRL.
Many thanks, Lorenzo, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. If we can move to the next slide, I will briefly present the digital template, XBRL taxonomy, and converter. So these 3 elements that we have published on EFRAG's website were highly requested during the public consultation, as Elisa mentioned before. Why? Because SMEs requested an easy-to-use template which would facilitate the reporting experience. As such, we have developed first a digital template in a Microsoft Excel format. Why Microsoft Excel? Well, we chose explicitly Microsoft Excel because it was the easiest And the easiest application that SMEs are most familiar with nowadays, and that they already use for many other things. As such, we developed this template with the idea to provide a user-friendly and efficient reporting experience. And of course, the digital template, which I will later walk you through, enables user-friendly data entry, including auto-calculation of totals, for example, validations, so it guides the undertaking through the process, spotting if there are any mistakes or if the undertaking is missing any disclosures when reporting on the basic or comprehensive module. Of course, in order to facilitate the reporting experience, we've also inserted drop-downs and checkboxes for semi-narrative disclosures, the one that Lorenzo and I presented last week. Of course, this allows SMEs, when navigating through the Excel, to avoid going to the regulations that are referenced, for example, the NAICS code list, and simply detect the specific NAICS code directly on the digital template. Furthermore, we've also included links to the VSME text at paragraph level, such that when the undertaking uses the Excel, it can immediately see which disclosure, the text of the disclosure, and the related guidance to the disclosure in case it has any doubts when reporting on it. Of course, in order to enable user-friendliness, we have used color coding as well as specific input messages for different categories of data points. For example, basic module disclosures are color-coded in a specific way compared to comprehensive module disclosures. Moreover, we have also introduced checkboxes that trigger the applicability of the disclosure. The if applicable principle is very important in the VSME standard, as it replaces the so-called materiality, which was initially present in the standard, that now it's no longer present. This is very important. Now, moving to the second element of this, we call it package, we have the XBRL taxonomy. The XBRL taxonomy is very important as it ensures that the data structure and the data point definitions stay unchanged and reflect the VSME text. It's very important as it acts as the invisible data point definition, which is maintained ultimately by us. As such, we have that it enables software and vendor-independent digital reporting and data exchange. This is crucial as it facilitates data exchange and import to databases with a structured, license-free, and open format. In addition, in contrast to the ESRS Set 1, which required tagging of the human-readable disclosures, the VSME XBRL taxonomy can be used as a template, making digital tagging obsolete, thus reducing significantly the time that the undertaking would have used in tagging the disclosures. As such, we have developed this Excel to XBRL converter, again, as an open, as a free and open source format, which enables the instant transformation of the template into both human readable, so accessible, an accessible report, which can be printed, can be shared by the company on the company's website, but also it transforms the template into a machine-readable format. So JSON and other technical formats, which are those that facilitate the data exchange and can be easily imported into databases. It's very important to mention that all the sources, so the template, the XBRL taxonomy and converter, are free. They're provided under an MIT license, which can be accessed on our website. So it basically provides basic entry points for undertakings to report on the VSME. Of course, we are not competing with the market because we provide the sources as a starting point, encouraging the market to develop more stable, maintained, and user-friendly and comprehensive solutions, because we acknowledge, of course, that the Excel has many limitations which could be overcome using dedicated platforms. Now, if we move to the next slide, here you see a visualization of the whole process, how it works. So basically, the undertaking goes and fills in the digital template. The digital template is defined by the XBRL taxonomy, which you don't see because your report, it's embedded within the template. And once the undertaking finishes the Excel template, it can go on EFRAG's website, access the Excel to XBRL converter, and with a few clicks, it can get an inline XBRL report. Of course, one thing I forgot to mention in the previous slide is that we had the first release of the digital template in May, on the 27th of May. And in October, following the release of the recommendation from the European Commission, we have updated the template to mirror the minor changes that were present in the recommendation, but also to enable a multi-language digital template. This was particularly requested by the SME organizations, as it would further facilitate the comprehension of the VSME in different countries. As such, now we have that the current template provides 4 additional languages on top of English, and it's a project that we have with different national standard setters at European level, which, as they are reviewing the translations that we have submitted them. And we plan to have a future release in November, probably, where we'll incorporate other translations. Now, if we move to the next slide, I will show you a demo of how to access the template, how it looks like, and the conversion process, etc. So it's very straightforward. If you go on Google, you simply type in the SME digital template, you reach this page, which is a dedicated page, where you can access all the resources, including an explanatory note where we explain all the process in developing the template, the limitations, the future releases. So it's very comprehensive. Then, as you can see, we have 2 different documents, 2 different Excels, sorry. We have an Excel version, which is empty. And this is the one, of course, that undertakings should download. And then we have also provided a mock-up example, as we thought that it was useful to provide a field version to the undertakings such that they could see how it looks like and how the conversion also looks like, having a mock-up example. Now, once you download the digital template, the empty version, we of course advise to open it in the desktop version of Microsoft Excel. Once it opens, there are a couple of warnings that should be accepted, as the security warning will enable the automatic calculation of the localization. Then in the first sheet, as you can see, you have the taxonomy entry point. And now we've also introduced the selected, the selected template display language. This, of course, you can simply select the language that you would like. For now, as I mentioned, we have 4 languages. And then we move to the actual information. We have that the template is structured in 4 main sheets. We have the general information sheet, then we have the environmental disclosures, the social disclosures, and lastly, the governance disclosures. This is very important, as the disclosures are divided as such following the VSME text. Now, if we look at, for example, B1, as you can see, now we have opened the mock-up field example. So if you select option B, you will see that validations will be triggered among the Excel. And if the undertaking correctly fills the disclosure on the right, you will see that an OK message will display. Of course, if the undertaking forgets to fill certain information, then the validation will say either error or value inconsistency or missing value. And as such, the undertaking can go back and see what is missing from the disclosure. Now, as you can see, we have also yellow check boxes. These yellow check boxes, as I explained before, concern the applicability conditions. And basically, if the undertaking is subject to a specific disclosure, it can check the checkbox, and the checkbox will allow the undertaking to fill the disclosure. Now, if we move to the fuel converter, as what we have within the digital template is also a fuel converter, which enables basically the undertaking, in case it reports on fuels, it can basically it allows the undertaking to convert instantly the units into megawatt hours, which are the ones that are requested by the environmental disclosure under B3. So it saves a lot of time, as undertakings that might have, for example, a specific fuel in cubic meters. Then by simply inserting the amount, they have the energy consumption in megawatt hours, and with a simple click, they can have the results popping up in B3 under the breakdown of energy consumption. If we continue now, I'm going to quickly show the different fuels that we have used, but essentially, for the sake of this demo, we will put the template language in Spanish. As you can see in the table of contents and in the whole Excel, all the labels are translated into Spanish in this case, because we have selected Spanish. Now, once the undertaking has correctly checked that it has filled everything, it can go to the table of content and validation and check that everything is correct. And once everything is correct, it can go save the digital template on its desktop. And once it has done so, it should close it. And then it's ready to go in on the EFRAG website and access the digital template to XBRL converter. Here, how it works. You basically select the file from your desktop. Then, by selecting the file, you simply solve a CAPTCHA. And of course, we have also introduced the possibility to add a company logo in case the undertaking would like to add a logo. And once you solve the CAPTCHA, you wait a couple of seconds. Typically, it's a couple of seconds. Of course, it depends on the usage of the converter. But once the conversion occurs, you will see that the conversion is either successful or there are problems. And if the conversion is successful, you have three different formats. We have on the left an inline XBRL report, which is what I was talking about previously. The inline XBRL report is what we call the human readable, because it's something that can be easily accessed by the undertaking and can be sent to, can be published on the company's website if the company would like so, or it can be also shared with the business counterparts. However, when sharing to the business counterparts, there are also two other reports, which are the XBRL report and the XBRL JSON. These are two more technical formats, which, as I was mentioning before, can facilitate the data exchange, and they can be easily imported within databases that are currently used by the business counterparts. Now, if we resume, when we download the inline XBRL report, again, it takes a few seconds, but once it generates the viewer, you will see, of course, you need to open it. And once you open it, you will see the inline XBRL report. In this case, it's in Spanish because in the template we had selected Spanish, but you will see all the disclosures with the relative tagging. So as you can see on the right, you have the specific tagging to the XBRL, to the specific taxonomy element that is reflected in the VSME. And this applies to enumeration list, to numerical values, but also to drop downs, to, for example, location, etc. So it's very accessible, and this basically eliminates the tagging burden that was present previously and that had to be done manually. Now everything is done through this converter, and as you can see, it's a simple sustainability report, which of course can be printed, for example, or can be shared in PDF among relevant among the company, but can also be published on the website. Of course, coming back to the converter, as you can see, we have also included some messages in order to guide the undertaking in case the conversion was not successful. So, for example, in this case, you see only messages for information. So the conversion was successful. It generated a number of facts. But of course, if something is not right in the conversion, everything will be displayed here, such that the undertaking can go back to the template, fix what is missing or what is wrong, and then come back and convert again. Of course, we have also included this message where we invite all SMEs that use the converter, and we had already more than 10,000 conversions. So we have seen that the template is highly used nowadays. We invite them to share on a confidential basis the report with us, such that we can analyze the reports and see if we can find some trends. Now, this was a quick demo. I hope it was clear, but of course, if you have any questions on specific aspects, you can ask them in the chat, in the Q&A box. Just to recap, in the next slide, this is a timeline of the whole process of the digital template. As you can see, we have published a first version back on the 27th of May, which reflected the VSME standard, the technical advice that we had sent to the Commission. However, on the 3rd of October, we have amended and released an updated version which reflects the changes of the European Commission. However, the work does not stop now, as we are continuing to, fix certain problems that users pick up in the template, as everything can be reported on a specific GitHub page, where basically if you encounter any problems, any technical problems, this is very important because we do not provide assistance on how to report, but only technical assistance. We then release what we call bug fix, or then if, of course, it's more important, as in the case of the recommendation release, we release a new updated version, which also includes an update of the VSME XBRL taxonomy. As again, let me clarify, the taxonomy is the invisible data format that defines the digital template. And of course, if we receive the appropriate funding, we will, of course, have future releases in 2026. Of course, we plan to include, for example, digital signatures, then what we call a distribution hub, so a distribution mechanism. And of course, this depends on the funding that we receive. But for now, we have seen that the template, as it is, it's highly used by the SMEs. And again, we have more than 10,000 conversions, and this number is increasing drastically, particularly now that we have released the template in additional languages. And of course, I expect that the more languages we make the template available, the more conversions, and let's say the easier it will be for the SMEs in all countries, not only Europe but also worldwide, to use the digital template. So I think I conclude now my part. I let Elisa just say a couple of words on the next steps that we have partially already covered. But yeah, this is, Elisa, up to you now.
Yes, thank you very much. So just to conclude the presentation, we wanted to remind you then what are the next steps. First batch of deliverable from the VSME ecosystem still pending is the supporting guides. We mentioned that for the examples of practices, policies, and future initiatives, for the GHG reduction targets and climate transition And for the examples of severe human rights incidents, we're aiming at the end of November, beginning of December to release those supporting guides. Matthias, you already mentioned the development on the VSME digital template and the taxonomy and converter. We are waiting now for the feedback in the framework of our survey for the VSME market acceptance, which will close on the 10th of November, and then we will produce a report, of course, based on that. And we encourage all the submitters as well to submit the reports if they have already reported with VSME. That is for us very interesting as well to be able to see the first reports, even though of course we're treating them in a confidential basis, so even if they are not public. Then we are also launching or about to launch another important tool that we think will greatly facilitate once again the VSME uptake, and this is the VSME Knowledge Hub. We have a part of the Knowledge Hub dedicated to the ESRS or for the large companies, but also we have a part dedicated to the SMEs, and probably it will be launched at the end of November, once again, or beginning of December. And then, of course, potentially we will continue the mapping exercises that we have described earlier and throughout 2026, and also continue the VSME ecosystem work, of course, at the condition that our funds will remain available to continue. So, because this project has received special funding from the European Parliament, from the European Commission, really to support the SMEs in this journey. So it's important if we are able to continue that. So I will conclude here, and then thank my colleagues. Thank you, Svetlana, for organizing, and let's open the floor and hear your question, if any.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Thank you, colleagues. That's impressive to see the variety of available resources, guidance, and tools aiming to support the implementation of the VSME standard. All this appears to be easy to use and user-friendly from my perspective. Of course, we encourage our participants to use templates, available templates. All these are free of charge. And as you mentioned, Matthias, if there are any technical issues, they can direct all this directly to you, to EFRAG. Also, they can direct their questions to us, and we can then share with EFRAG team if any. So far, there are no any open questions. So, dear friends, please do not hesitate to ask your questions. We can start with a general question first on the VSME standard. Earlier today, Elisa, you mentioned that the existence of clear incentives was one of the critical messages from your consultations with EU member states. Maybe we can try and extrapolate this to our participants, to non-EU member states. And from your perspective, what could be the main incentive or maybe barrier for regulators in EU accession countries to adopt the VSME standard as a mandatory reporting framework? And for certain category of entities, of course, not for the largest one as mandated by CSRD as of now, as enforced. And also from your perspective, what would be the key incentive for SMEs to apply the standard? If you can elaborate from this perspective, and then we can continue with a couple of questions related to templates and available resources.
Yes, so maybe for the first part of the question, I would say that for the possible barriers or what could stimulate or what could prepare let's say the endorsement of VSME in the various member states, even you know, in outside Europe, would be really to accompany accompany with the ecosystem, which is a bit what we have been trying to show today. There are various elements. Of course, there is also an element of providing funding, but it's not the main one, because the funding is aimed at education. Capacity building can be done in conjunction, can be done through also private-public cooperation, can be done with the various associations, chamber of commerces, and so on, or partly through the government. The digitalization aspect is really key, so to build and accompany that process with the really concrete practical digital tools, because that really lowers the barrier, and to also help understanding with a hands-on approach that most of the data which are present in the VSME are really easy to find. So it's, I don't know, we're talking about energy-based, water-based. So this is why, you know, a kind of national knowledge hub or national GHG calculators, those relatively easy, but still not well defined or not existing everywhere tools are really the easy one, and would make a huge difference in incentivizing SMEs. Preparing, I would say, how do you say, preparing the appetite, generate, you know, the right environment for then enforcing it, maybe in a mandatory approach. But it's true that there has to be a preparatory work before, you know, asking everyone to report, especially SMEs or, you know, smaller companies to mandatorily report. We see that it's a gradual process. Then for the second part, can you remind me, sorry, Svetlana, the second part of the question?
It was about incentive for SMEs itself to apply the standard.
For SMEs, we can see really many incentives. Of course, some are the market-led. I mean, there is, you know, an on-demand reporting, which, for example, in our cost-benefit analysis in Europe, it was estimated that probably 20% of SMEs, in particular the small medium size, would be, it's a wrong word, but, you know, on-demand reporters, in the sense that they would not really spontaneously report, but they would be asked by their banks or their value chain partners to do that. But okay, it's a motivation, it's an incentive, maybe it's not the right one, but still it's an important one. And then, of course, the rest is also an important, and which is the spontaneous trigger, which is really has to do with wanting to better manage the ESG risks, to become familiar with the ESG issues for their own management purpose, for the strategy, for profiling towards the customer or with the peers. You know, the fact of managing, better managing, make the example because it's in front of everyone, the climate risk, the physical risk to which all companies and SMEs are exposed. Learning and becoming aware of those type of risks and learning to manage is certainly an important incentive by its own for the entrepreneurs. So those are certainly there are also other very concrete, I don't know, being part of public tender. Very often nowadays there are ESG criteria that are introduced also in public tender. So being able to show and profile There is G performance in public tenders may also be an incentive. So there are multiple incentives, but and then of course connected at the end of the day also with better access to finance or maybe even better access to customers and maybe even a better price for what concerned the financing. So there are multiple, I would say, market and management strategic objectives, but certainly the support is a key element to make it happen.
Thanks, Lisa. And a couple of questions related to templates we discussed today. Are there any plans to somehow integrate AI driven tools into the VSME ecosystem, or why not into the ESRSs? You mentioned availability of funding is key in your work, but maybe there are some plans you would like to share with us.
Maybe on the digital template, what we have done is we have included already a fuel converter. We have also received the request to integrate a GHG calculator. However, this is not possible at the moment because, as you know, there is no EU GHG calculator, and there are lots of difficulties related to the emission factors of each country. There is no single database, so this would make it very complex. What we have done is we have integrated in the template a link to our website where we list, as Elisa showed before in the presentation, those GHG calculators that were shortlisted in the mapping. Of course, they do not cover all countries, but at least it's a good starting point, I would say. Also because, for example, one GHG calculator is a multi-country one. It's from the SME Climate Hub, and we have listed it on our website also for that reason. Then concerning other support material, I don't think at the moment we expect any AI-based support. What we will do is, if we receive the funding also for next year to continue this project, we will continue, of course, to integrate within template additional guidance. For example, the guidance on C2, so on the description of practices, policies, and future initiatives, such that when the undertaking goes in the template, goes under B2, C2 as they're together, they will see a pop-up window where they can simply click and they can access those examples that my colleagues have developed to facilitate the reporting experience. Of course, it's possible that we will work also on additional guidance on other topics.
Thanks, Matthias. One more question about languages. You mentioned that and you showed that the template is available in several languages, but what additional languages will the VSME digital template support in the next release? By the way, are there any intention to translate it into Romanian language? Romanian is one of the EU member states, and some we have participants from Moldova in this webinar, so they are interested in the Romanian language, for instance. And are there any plans to translate the VSME digital template in non-EU languages? And if, for instance, our program and CFRR can facilitate the translation of the VSME digital template into one of or several languages of EU accession countries. In this case, would it be possible from EFRAG perspective to incorporate the translation into the publicly available version, so they can go to your site and use as you just demonstrated a few minutes before? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, in the next release, we should reach 10 languages on top of English. However, it will not be Romanian at the moment, as unfortunately we have not been contacted by the national standard setter. However, I'm pretty confident that through EFRAG's CFSS, so the Consultative Forum of Standard Setters, we will manage at a certain point to have the language, to have the template also translated in Romanian. Additional languages in the next release will include, for example, French, German, Dutch, for example. Then we have also Irish, and Czech Republic, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But of course, it's as I explained before, it's a continuous progress. We don't want to stop. If of course we receive the funding, we will continue to maintain the template, the taxonomy as well, because it's very important to mention that when you see the template translated in a single in another language on top of English, then of course also the taxonomy labels need to be translated, such that when the undertaking goes on the online converter and converts the report, the generation of the human inline XBRL report, it's also on that language. So we have done that at the moment. And concerning the question on whether the template could be translated in non-EU languages, from a technical point of view, this is not a problem, as of course we would be more than happy if the World Bank could support us on that, because what we have seen is initially we had developed translations using AI. However, even though the code was very advanced, the quality of the translation was relatively poor. This is why we decided to involve the national standard setters to review the translations, as we think that accuracy, specifically in standard setting, is very important, as if a term is not translated correctly, it can lead to many doubts. I'm thinking now about turnover, for example, which, if translated wrongly, it can generate lots of doubts and unnecessary reporting in many cases. So I can clarify that from a technical perspective, it would be possible. Of course, once again, it depends on the funding that we will receive next year, and of course also on the collaboration with the World Bank.
Thank you very much, Matthias. It's good to know that from a technical perspective, this is possible. Of course, we'll continue to collaborate and to discuss with EFRAG team on how to implement this. So far, our program has supported the translation of full ESRS into Albanian language, into Macedonian and Serbian, and standards are available on our website. And currently, ESRSs are being translated into Armenian and also, and will be available. So how we can use this work and terminology already translated into these languages. So to support the translation of the digital template and season how to incorporate into EFRAG templates. So I see we have a few questions here. In the Q&A box, can a company from a non-EU country test the template and other tools? I think so. All tools are publicly available and free of charge. You can confirm from your side, colleagues.
Indeed, yes, I can confirm, and of course, you're more than welcome to test the template. And we've also seen that sometimes the template is also used by non-EU companies as they fall within the supply chain of a large corporate. So it's feasible. As Svetlana mentioned, all sources are available for free. There is also an educational video on our website, which basically, in case you want to go over a more detailed, let's say, presentation of the template, it's also there. So we invite all of you actually to go ahead and test the template, access the reports that Elisa presented before, which are available. Everything is available on our website. So we're very transparent. What we do, we publish on our website, and it's free of access, as we want to incentivize and support SMEs in their reporting journey.
Thanks. I see a question here, Macedonian. Yes, we can confirm ESRSs are available into Macedonian, Serbian, and Albanian languages. And Ekaterina will share with you all the link to this publication shortly after our meeting. One more question here. Are you doing trainings or events somewhere with our presence where we can exchange a lot of experience and knowledge from you? Of course, EFRAG can answer from your perspective regarding events or webinars you organize. I can share with participants that under a regional program, yeah, sure. We plan to organize next year a training for trainers based on full ESRSs and also on VSME Standard, and regulators from participating country, as well as representatives of professional accounting associations will be invited to delegate one or two representatives to attend the training, and then they will have the possibility to replicate learning materials in their country. Again, colleagues, if you want to share some information regarding events, I admit EFRAG organize conferences and events, not trainings, but please elaborate from your perspective.
You know, for the trainings aspect, we have, for example, organized a specific training with the European Commission in collaboration with them. There is always a possibility of organizing training, but let's say it's not our, for the moment, core activity, in particular because we have, as you know, also the revision of the ESRS. I mean, there is a lot of work at the moment, which is putting our resource a bit into stretch, but it's something that we may develop. And in particular, what we would like to do in the next phase of the VSME ecosystem is also to learn on the basis of the first reports, what are, you know, the challenges, the easy data point, the most difficult one, the one, so to continue, let's say, this very practical work. So that could also offer the basis for exchanges, sharing experiences, sharing practices, and hopefully at that point we can also publish some of those results. As Matthias said, I mean, we aim at always keep transparency and share as much as it can be done in this case, but Yeah, so nothing very concrete at the moment, but it's an ongoing process, so probably that will be a next phase.
Yeah, and a question from Ukraine, dear Valentina, as mentioned, yes, is under our plan to organize a training of trainers. You will be informed accordingly when we are ready to launch the training. One more question, colleague Paul Thompson is asking, does EFRAG see merit in having a certificate for preparers on SME sustainability reports using VSME Standard, possibly in conjunction with professional accountancy organizations? If you can elaborate and
Well, I think
comment.
this is a very valid point. It could be something to explore. I must say, for the moment, we have not gone into that. Let's say the type of agreements. I think there was also some thoughts or some initial attempt also for ESRS. Certainly, it will make sense to have like a program, a bit like you said, even train the preparers, a training program that can be certified and done it together with the body, with the representative body, like an accountant, professional accountants organization. So it's again something to explore. Nothing in the plans for the moment, but to keep in mind for sure. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. There are no more open questions now, and we are about to close this event. Unfortunately, Adrian was unable to join us for closing remarks, but he conveyed warmest greetings to all participants, to EFRAG team, and success to everyone on path to adopting sustainability reporting requirements, either mandatory requirements or voluntary for SMEs. We trust you found the two webinars organized by CFRR in cooperation with the EFRAG both informative and timely. Of course, we'll continue to keep you informed on developments at EU level with regard to sustainability reporting, and we hope at the end of this calendar year there will be clarity with regard to entities under the scope and omnibus directive. So, dear friends, we'll keep you informed. Just to remind you all that this event was organized by CFRR and the regional program enhancing accounting, auditing, and sustainability reporting. The program is co-financed by the Federal Ministry of Finance of Austria, by the Swiss State Secretariat of Economic Affairs, and the Austrian Development Agency. Thanks again to our donors. Dear participants, you will receive a link to a survey. Please take a few moments to fill in the survey. Your feedback help us to design next event. Again, thank you very much, Elisa, Lorenzo, and Matthias for your great contribution last session and today. A special thanks to interpreters for helping connect across languages. We look forward to welcome you to next events, virtual or face to face. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.